Welcome to Trial by Wine. We take a closer look at crimes that highlight how fascinating humans can be. Schmidty, Swanee and Clarky visit crimes and run them through their jury of three, debating both sides of the case to agree an appropriate, if totally fictitious, sentence. Please be advised, Trial by Wine may include explicit or disturbing content and will include drunken rambling. Listener discretion is advised. All right, how are we?
Good.
Well.
Yes, well, some of us are better than others by the judging by that message I got earlier this afternoon.
Yes, I'm a bit croaky because I've tested positive to the big C.
Oh.
So that's
In
right.
the old days, that was cancer, but nowadays it's COVID.
Oh, I was thinking there's
That's
a few.
true. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. That's an awful thing to say.
I was thinking
That's
there's
right.
a few
I've
work
heard
days
people
where
say.
people test positive to the big C, and that's a different kind of C yet again.
There's no test for that.
Yeah, not yet. Just what goes on in my head.
Apart from our health troubles, which Clarky and I seem to have come to the other end of, although I'm still a bit croaky, but I'm fine otherwise. And Swanee's got COVID. What else? What other news have we got? Anything?
11 and a half weeks till we go overseas, which we are actually counting down for, so that's exciting.
14th of July.
Bastille Day.
Yes. What about you, Schmidty? Anything going on with you?
No, not really.
Your surroundings look different.
Yeah,
You're in
Gardening,
town,
yeah.
are you?
I'm in town. I'm
You're up in the big smoke.
I am. So I was working in the Essendon office today, and I will be again tomorrow. So that's fine. You know, I'm trying to get around and see people and be seen, kind of thing.
Well, you do get around, so that shouldn't be a problem.
I get around, woo, yeah. So I'm Schmidty.
I'm Swanee.
And I'm Clarky. And together we are
Trial
by
Wine.
And what are we drinking today?
Not
Not
even a Coke Zero. It's just water at the moment. I'm only daylight
enough.
one, so I just need to try and flush as much of it out as I can, I think. But anyway,
Excellent. Well,
Schmidty?
I'm drinking a...
surprise me. I've got no idea. I'm not getting a vibe. Normally I would lean into sort of a gin or maybe a cruise or whatever. I can't tell today.
Mango chutney.
Mango
No,
chut.
not today. Today I have a Saint Joseph appellation from the somewhere in France. It's from the Rhone in France, and it's a Syrah.
Is it nice?
It is nice. It's lighter than an Australian Shiraz,
Yeah.
but it is nice, yes. So cheers. Or as they
Cheers.
say in France, or do they? Chin?
Salute.
Salute.
Or is that,
Salute.
salute? Is that French or is that Italian?
Salute is Italian.
I thought that was Italian. Yeah.
Chin chin,
I
chin chin,
is it
whatever. I can't
chin?
remember.
I know.
Proust is German, I think, with a beer.
So
Yeah,
who's
Prost.
Prost, sorry. Proust.
got
Proust.
I don't know why I think it's chin, but it's probably not. Who's got a story for us?
Me.
Thank goodness.
Lucky. It's always amazing how it works out that
It's-
one of us
what a
has a
coincidence.
story.
Deirdre
Deirdre
Chambers, what a
Chambers.
coincidence.
Yes.
Although my little research session yesterday was it sort of fell over as I was starting. I could feel myself going downhill, and I was like, I don't feel so crash hot.
Mm.
I don't feel so crash hot. And it was freezing cold and windy, and I was like, oh, it's just the weather. It's just the weather. And then, like through the night, actually, when I went to bed, I was
Fevers,
thinking,
the night
no,
sweats.
nothing like that. It was my brain. When I went to bed, I was thinking about something that happened in the day, and my brain did this thing where I couldn't remember it, and like it was like I was like, oh god, I'm having a stroke. That was so weird. I thought, oh god, something's not right. Then went to bed, whatever else, and even this morning I didn't feel dreadful, but not quite right, and took a test. But I was like, it was my brain yesterday was weird, like my wiring more than anything. Anyway, sorry about that.
It does all sorts of things to you. Santé.
So basically, what I'm saying is, whatever I say, I can't be held accountable for. I couldn't. Possibly,
Okay.
I think I'm
All
having
right.
some brain issues.
You know Schmidty will edit it all out anyway. As if. Keep
Yeah.
it old.
Oh,
Keep
hang
it
on.
old.
Sorry,
Something's
but
not
I've just
quite right.
I was editing Toolbox and the box with the other box
the
killer,
the box people.
the box bastards.
Toolbox.
Oh,
today,
yeah.
and
Toy
I
box.
was cutting right, left, and centre. Can't keep
Oh,
that
good.
in. Oh.
Oh god, good. Good.
Well, shall I tell you a story?
Yes.
Yes, please.
do.
Yes.
Today, I'd like to start by telling you about hoarding disorder.
Oh, awesome.
Because I had
Tony
this...
suffers from this.
I had this moment where I'm like, I wonder if there's crimes of hoarding disorder.
Mm-hmm.
Do you watch the shows?
Mm.
Oh,
Okay,
no.
I love it.
Oh, so do
I
I.
love it.
God,
And it's one of those things,
no.
if it feeds into you once on like your, social media or whatever, then you're like flooded. At one point, maybe last year or the year before, I would get another story. I'd be sending them to my brother going, oh my God, look at this one. Oh my God, I love it.
I'm currently experiencing a crime of hoarding disorder.
Oh.
In my house in the UK.
It's not funny. That's true. Sorry, I was laughing and then I went, oh, not funny.
No. No one's put a number on it, but I do know because I've seen the footage, the video and pictures. If hoarding used nappies and animal feces is part of the disorder, I reckon they suffered from it. Just saying.
Yeah, well, it is.
Nasty.
So
my soon-to-be new tenant is cleaning it up and she's doing a magnificent
Good job.
So, Swanee, I reckon you'll enjoy this one if you like hoarding.
I think I will very much.
So
Me too.
My
it's like
sources,
pimple popper.
Yeah, well, yeah. See,
it's
again,
all that
I can't
disgusting
stand
stuff.
that
I
either.
love it. Oh, can't wait. Go for it.
So my sources are mayoclinic.org, who will tell us not about Mayo, but they'll tell us all about hoarding. And
surely you go to the Mayo Clinic all the time. I'm forever searching for all these ailments that I have, and I'm always ending up on the Mayo Clinic website, so I'm very familiar with it. Very.
Yeah, right. That's a no from me, but you probably know more about it than I do. And then also one of our faves, All That's Interesting, medium.com, and of course, Wikipedia.
Oh, classics.
Classics, yeah. That was enough to get this story. Let me tell you about hoarding disorder. Actually, Swanee, do you want to tell us about hoarding disorder?
What I think I understand about it, it's a mental health issue.
Yeah.
And most people who suffer from it, there may have been a trauma or some kind of mental breakdown at some point, not always, but in their past. And they quite often will then be unable to let go of things. And that can range from people collecting things, that'd be the nice end, to people not being able to chuck away used food, never cleaning up. And then generally what happens is it just manifests and becomes bigger and bigger and bigger to the point where they can't move, they can't live, they can't do anything in spaces that they're just living amongst, usually garbage. Right?
Yeah, something very similar to that. So there is actually a distinction between collecting and hoarding. So collecting is normally when you collect similar things within a family, for instance, and they're generally in an organised display or filed away in an organised way. So stamps in a stamp book, spoons could be in a cabinet or dolls or any of that kind of thing people can collect.
Empty boxes.
Whereas
bodies,
dolls made from bodies.
Yeah.
Is anybody else, I don't know why this is happening to me at the moment, but when you start getting fed things on social media, there's a thing at the moment where you had done a story on it, Schmidty, about the re-life? No, the dolls.
Reborn dolls.
Reborn dolls.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I might have seen one or two.
Yes, and one of them had a nappy around its head when it was delivered as a newborn baby. I thought,
what?
Oh, is that wrong? That was like, and here they revealed the doll, and I went, I was going to send it to you, Pear. It'll come up again. I'll send it through.
You can click on it and go see less of these or something. I think.
I know, but you know why I don't? Because I think of you, Pear. Every time something creepy or weird comes up, and I go to send it, and then I think, they don't need to see that. We'll just wait, see if anything better comes up, and it usually does. But yeah, I'm the reborn at the moment. They're sending stuff to me.
I'm honoured. Yeah. Anyway, so hoarding is generally where you have difficulty throwing away or parting with possessions, because you believe for some reason you need to save them. Some people will experience distress at the thought of getting rid of the items, and over time they'll keep or gather a huge number of items regardless of their actual value. And so it can lead to extremely cramped living conditions where stuff will pile up to the point where there may be narrow pathways winding through stacks of clutter. So Schmidty, you mentioned Tony is suffering from hoarding. Perhaps at this point it's only the early stages, or perhaps that's the real reason you're at the Essendon house at the moment. Do you want to shed some light on that?
No, I'm like the opposite. So last year I think he went to the UK and I took the opportunity. He had in the unit, he had one room that was just full of stuff, and it was like, it's not rubbish, like it's not dirt, it's not food and stuff, but just boxes. He keeps
Empty boxes?
Empty boxes. You know when you
Yes, when
get
you've
like a
opened-
nice bottle of wine in a display box type thing, keeps
Yep.
those things. And like one or two I can kind of understand, but he keeps them and he says, "Oh no, I'll use them to make a gift for someone else, to package it up."
and never
Yeah.
does.
And then he never does.
Yeah.
So yeah, I trashed so much when he wasn't around. And the funny thing is, he comes back. He's like, "Oh, it's good. It's nice and neat." He has not at no point has he said, "Where's this or where's that?"
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
So I reckon that's early stages for sure.
I think so, but I'm onto it.
We got it at our house too in that case, trust me.
Really?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah, right.
Especially that the box situation. I ended up throwing away so many boxes.
Oh, it just drives me
Everything's
crazy.
ever been open, we've kept the box for that.
Oh, yeah, I hate keeping the box of stuff like glassware and that. Oh,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. But also, is there a hoarding disorder that's associated to the cheap shit that Aldi sells? Because that's
yeah.
an absolute disease with him. He cannot go into an Aldi without coming out with something I don't need, nor do I have
Yes.
space for,
Yes.
and thinks it's just brilliant.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's hoarding. I think that's probably more on the retail side of things where you're
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
getting a certain amount of joy from retail therapy
Retail
Oh,
therapy,
okay,
that's
yeah.
it. Yeah, I think
Okay.
you're
without regard for what's going to happen when you take it home.
Where you're going to put it. That's right. Okay.
Correct.
All
Yeah,
right.
so it can lead to where countertops, sinks, stoves are piled with stuff. And we suffer from that a little bit here where we often have our bench tops full of stuff. But I like to have things on display so I know where they are. The minute I file something, it's gone. So maybe that's got something to do with it.
I think this this story might really polarize opinion because I think I'm going to be on one end because I can't cope with that clutter.
Bring it.
I have to
Yeah.
have clear bench spaces.
Same here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't
Oh, we
stand-
don't. Yeah.
Oh, I
It
think
does our heads in just watching it, but
But yours aren't that bad. I don't judge yours as being particularly bad.
Great. All right, so when there's no more room inside your home, the clutter may spread to the garage, vehicles, yard, and other storage areas. And I think, we've all seen things on a current affair ads where there's a neighbour who's got junk piled in their yard. And they're
Absolutely.
like, is this the worst neighbour or any of that sort of stuff? So hoarding ranges from mild to severe. In some cases, hoarding may not have much impact on your life or you may be able to keep it under control. Or in fact, Schmidty, in your case, your wife may be able to keep your hoarding under control, where in other cases it seriously affects daily functioning.
Oh, God, yeah.
People with hoarding disorder may not see it as a problem, so getting them to take part in treatment can be challenging, but intensive treatment can help you understand how your beliefs and behaviours can be changed so that you can live a safer, more enjoyable life. Symptoms of hoarding disorder usually appear during teenage and early adult years,
Oh,
which is interesting. I wasn't aware of that.
neither am
And
I.
as you grow older, you may continue getting and holding onto things that you may never use and don't have space for. By middle age, the clutter can become overwhelming and symptoms become more severe and increasingly difficult to treat. Problems with hoarding gradually develop over time and tend to be a private behaviour. So you may avoid having family, friends or repair workers in your home, and often major clutter has developed by the time it reaches the attention of others.
Correct.
Know about that one, Schmidty?
Mm-hmm.
Here are some of the symptoms. So getting and keeping too many items that you may not have need for right now and don't have space for. So that could be your Aldi one, Schmidty.
That's my wardrobe.
Right, there you go. See, so maybe you've got some hoarding behaviours too.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Oh, I feel like you just said
Collecting.
yes.
Definite distinction.
Okay. Ongoing difficulty throwing out or parting with your things, regardless of their actual value. Feeling a need to save these items and being upset by the thought of getting rid of them. Building up clutter to the point where you can't use rooms. Schmidty, this should be a tick box for Tony, I think. Trying to be perfect and avoiding or delaying decisions. I'm not sure about that one. And problems with planning and organising.
Before we go any further, have you never watched Hoarders?
No, I have seen an ad for it though. Yeah.
It is a show that just gives. I don't know what it is about that show, but it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's so fucked up. It's awesome. You
Yeah.
just can't believe that people are so attached to a dirty old newspaper, or I don't know. Like some of them shop constantly to buy the same things. They don't have the money for it. Their kids have got no bedrooms. Oh, it's it's horrendous, but it's like you can't look away. It's like a train crash.
Yeah. So getting too many items can result in things like disorganized piles or stacks of items such as newspapers, clothes, paperwork, items that crowd and clutter your walking spaces and living areas, rooms that can't be used, things like not being able to sleep in your bed, build up of food or trash to large unsanitary levels,
Correct.
distress or problems functioning or keeping yourself, others, and pets safe in your home, conflict with others who try to reduce or remove clutter from your home,
Absolutely.
relationship issues, avoiding social activities and employment problems. And with hoarding disorder, items are usually saved because people believe these items are unique or that they'll need them at some point in the future.
Mm-hmm.
They feel emotionally connected to items that remind them of happier times or represent beloved people or pets. They feel safe and comforted when surrounded by these things, and they don't want to waste anything. Just in terms of causes, so Carly, you mentioned mental health. This actually says it's not clear what causes hoarding,
Yep.
but genetics, brain function, and stressful life events are being studied as possible causes.
I hope COVID isn't one of them. That's where I might be headed with this little
Yeah,
brain that's going
well,
on.
let's see.
Let's see how it goes.
And what they're saying is risk factors include personality. So many people who have hoarding disorder have a behaviour style that includes troublemaking decisions and problems with attention, organisation, and problem solving. Family history. So there's a strong association between having a family member who has hoarding disorder and having the disorder yourself. And stressful life events. So some people develop hoarding disorder after experiencing a stressful life event they have difficulty coping with, such as the death of a loved one, divorce, or losing possessions in a fire. And then some of the complications are increased risk of falls, injury, or being trapped by shifting or falling items, family conflicts, loneliness and social isolation, conditions that aren't clean and can be a health risk, a fire hazard, poor work performance, and legal issues such as eviction. So that is what I'm going to tell you about hoarding. And now I think we should talk about some of history's most famous hoarders. And when I say some, it's two brothers called the Collyer brothers.
Okay.
Probably haven't heard of them.
No.
I certainly hadn't. So Homer and Langley Collyer were brothers who were born in 1881 and 1885 respectively, and they lived together in a brownstone in Harlem, New York. Their father, Dr. Herman Collyer, was a Manhattan gynecologist at Bellevue Hospital, and together with his wife, Susie Collyer, he moved the family into the Harlem brownstone in 1909. But the couple separated around 1919, and Dr. Collyer moved to a new home while Susie stayed in the house with Homer and Langley. The brothers never married and remained living with their mother. Both brothers had attended Columbia University. Homer received a degree in Admiralty Law, while Langley pursued chemistry and engineering. Langley also worked professionally as a concert pianist for a short period of time. Quite diverse. In 1923, Dr. Collyer died and left everything to his sons. This included all of the equipment from his medical practice, which the brothers moved into the house. Their mother died in 1929 and also left all her possessions to them. Both brothers continued to live in the home, and Homer practiced law while Langley was a piano dealer. Homer lost his eyesight in 1933, and Langley quit his job to be the caretaker of his brother. Homer later became paralysed due to another medical issue. So they've got all the stuff from their mum and dad, and Langley's not working, and Homer is more or less housebound. So it was at that time that the brothers started to become more secluded. It was around the time of the Great Depression, and this led to the brothers becoming more fearful of changes that were taking place in the neighbourhood. They were also concerned with the change in racial demographics, with more African Americans moving into vacant apartment buildings. Their normal, if slightly odd lives were derailed when, in 1932, Homer suffered a stroke that caused him to go blind. They'd already begun to withdraw from the neighbourhood around them due to their fear of the new, predominantly black and poor community that was beginning to appear in Harlem. But it was after this blindness struck that the two brothers fully withdrew. I'm not sure if there's a karma-ric. Is karma-ric a word?
No.
You know
Karma
what I mean,
related?
right? The karma-related link.
Right. Or karma, okay.
But if there was, I could understand. Langley took care of his brother as best he could, but the two of them flatly refused to see any doctors. Langley would feed Homer a diet of 100 oranges a week, black bread and peanut butter, which he claimed would eventually cure his brother's blindness.
Wow.
He would also read literature to his brother and play him classic sonatas on his piano. Homer eventually developed rheumatism that left him entirely paralysed, but still rejected any medical help. At this point, the Collyer brothers had lost any source of income, and the city had shut down their utilities for failure to pay. Langley, who was a skilled engineer, then jerry-rigged an old Ford Model T the family had owned to act as a generator for the house. He would use pumps at local parks as a source of water and used a small kerosene heater to warm their house. It's quite ingenious.
I think anyone could say these pair weren't clever to start with.
He would hoard items, including baby carriages, rusted bikes, records, and empty bottles and tin cans. He would purchase and hoard thousands of unused instruments, books, and fabrics. He would also collect stacks and stacks of newspapers that he stated were for when Homer would regain his sight. The Collyer brothers' eccentricities brought them infamy within the neighbourhood. The stories then gained widespread attention in 1938 when the New York Times reported that they had turned down an offer of $125,000 for their Harlem brownstone, an entirely untrue claim. Within the article, the Times implied that the brothers had amassed some kind of great material wealth within their home. The article generated a huge amount of attention around the Collyer brothers and led to a number of burglary attempts on the house. Langley, with his engineering knowledge, built a huge number of intricate booby traps to deter would-be thieves.
All right.
And some neighbourhood kids threw rocks through a window. The brothers boarded up all the windows and wired the doors shut. I mean, what could go wrong? Despite living in destitution, the Collyer brothers seemed to have a considerable amount of money saved up for extreme circumstances. When the neighbours began to peek in on the brothers, they paid $7,500 in cash for the neighbour's house. So that's roughly $120,000.
That's one way to fix it.
Yeah. So then, starting in 1938, however, the Collyer brothers began to receive too much attention. Things only got worse for the brothers when gas workers for Consolidated Edison came to the house in 1939 to remove 2 gas meters that had been shut off in 1928. Crowds began to gather during the incident as workers forced their way into the brownstone. And in August 1942, the Bowery Savings Bank sought payment for 3 years of delinquent mortgage payments, or they would begin eviction procedures. The bank formally began those procedures in November 1942 and sent workers to clean out the home. The police were called to the home after Langley refused entry to the workers, and when they tried to break down the front door, they could not get in because of the pile of debris that went from the floor to the ceiling. When police and workers finally got inside, Langley was in the middle of a room on top of a pile of junk. He promptly wrote a check for $6,700 to pay off the mortgage and ordered everyone to get out of the house. For the next 4.5 years, Langley continued his after-midnight excursions into the outside world to collect more things and food. But everything came to an end in 1947. An anonymous person contacted the police on March 21st, 1947, claiming there was a foul smell coming from the house.
Oh, yuck.
And a dead body was inside.
Oh, God.
An officer responded to the tip and attempted to get the tip as in the tip off, as opposed to the tip that was the house, and attempted to get into the home, but found there was too much debris to get in. Any other doors were locked and the basement windows were covered with iron bars. 7 men were called to the home and they began clearing all the junk and debris from the entry. There was nowhere to put it except on the street outside. One patrolman was able to get through a 2nd-story bedroom window, but it was completely blocked by boxes, newspaper bundles, and other items tied together. After digging for 5 hours through the items and trash that went to the ceiling, they found Homer's body slumped over. Homer was identified by a medical examiner who said he had been dead for around 10 hours due to starvation and heart disease.
It's funny he smelled that quickly.
I'm surprised by that.
It is.
Could they smell when they got there? Yeah.
Decomposition starts the second you die, basically.
Okay.
And you remember I was carrying on about the
Yes.
lack of smell the other day?
Yeah.
Police couldn't locate Langley in the home, and suspected he might have been the anonymous person who left the tip and then left the house. In fact, the tipster was a neighbour who'd been acting on rumours he had heard. The police waited for Langley to return, but he never showed. Reports of sightings of Langley were made in coming weeks, but none of them turned up anything. And when Homer's funeral came and went on April 1st, 1947, police suspected Langley was possibly dead.
I was going to say, have we emptied the house yet? Is he in the house?
We haven't emptied the house yet. No.
Okay. Maybe there was a bad
Police
smell.
and workers continued to search the house, clearing debris and carefully steering clear of the booby traps amongst the rubbish.
Oh,
Could you imagine that job? Like,
I shouldn't laugh.
Well,
but
don't move that.
booby trapped tip, basically. Workers removed everything from stacks of old newspapers and boxes to a radiator, bicycles and musical instruments. They found glass chandeliers, dressmaker dummies, broken bottles, oil stoves, and trunks filled to the brim with other items. They also found a human skeleton, an X-ray machine, 5 pianos in the basement,
5 pianos.
5 pianos, and 25,000 books.
76 trombones.
They must
Yeah, in the big parade.
That's right.
On April 8th, 1947, a worker discovered the body of Langley Collyer under the debris in a narrow tunnel only 10 feet away from the spot
Where his brother was found.
where his brother had been found. The medical examiner estimated that Langley had been dead anywhere from 2 weeks to a month, and without a caretaker, Homer had starved to death.
That's sad.
It was believed that Langley had set off one of his heavily weighted booby traps and had been trapped under a large box or crate, unable to move or breathe.
Pretty hard to breathe in there to start with, let alone with a box on it.
Exactly.
Oh, how awful. Good at picking these cheery ones, aren't you, Clarky?
I know, right? I actually had thought you might have got a whole lot more humour along the way from the hoarding side of things. But
Well, because I can picture it, and I must admit I'm a little triggered because of my own situation. So, some of this is funny, some of this is just revolting. Yeah.
Well, just wait for the time when Tony starts booby trapping his hoard. He'll go
I don't
away
think
and
I'll
you
be
could
with
end
him
up.
by then. if that's where we go, that's a showstopper for me. Yeah.
But if you don't know and you get trapped under
True.
one of them, then so just beware. Next time you go to clean it out,
Yeah, okay.
it could be booby trapped. And
Well,
don't let Tony hear this episode because it might give him an
We've
idea.
moved.
Yeah.
We've moved, and I know where everything is because I unpacked the house, and so I don't think we'll get in that state. Fair warning.
A crowd grew outside the brownstone to an estimated 5,000 people,
Whoa.
while workers continued to empty the home, removing around 120 tonnes of junk and placing it on the street. The house was condemned and razed in July 1947. It's razed with a Z, so burnt.
Yeah, down to the ground, yeah.
And the term the Collyer brothers became a saying with New Yorkers, referring to something that was a mess. The site where the house previously sat became a vacant lot, but was developed into a pocket park named after the brothers, called Collyer Brothers Park.
Oh.
Oh.
And sadly, that's the end of my story. So it was only very short. I had thought it would go for a lot longer than that.
Well, that's all right. As I said, I was a bit triggered, so I'm just going to show you before we talk about the Colliers and obviously their illness. This was sent to me last year, I think it was, or the year before. And this was about where my then tenant said that they had fallen ill and they hadn't been able to clean for a couple of weeks. That's the bedroom that I used to live in.
What?
And for our listeners, we're looking at a hoarder situation with someone saying I couldn't clean for a couple of weeks, and there is not there's 6 inches of floor that you can see. Mattresses on the floor too, not in a base.
I
There's
I
just
couldn't
shit
clean because
everywhere.
I was too busy messing the place up by the
I
looks
couldn't
of
clean
that.
because I was a feral.
And that's the photo they chose to send you?
Yeah.
No. What happened was an electrician went into the property. You said earlier about not wanting maintenance people to come in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And interestingly, as things progressed through this process, exactly that. So every time the agents tried to inspect, and it all came to a head because we were trying to get someone in, because you have to do a gas certificate every year. It's a legal requirement. And the tenants just weren't responding to any phone calls, nothing, because they didn't want anyone to see the state of the house, obviously. And it's worse, by the way, how it ended up is worse than what I showed you, because that's 18 months ago. And there are other images of cans full of cigarette butts. There is not a single surface that's uncleaned. At the time, that's not covered in something. At the time, she contacted me and said, yes, I've fallen a little behind. I think I need some help. And interestingly, I believe, if this is true, that got the help of a local TV production company to come in and clean it out in some kind of Hoarders show.
Yeah,
Which is interesting, which I've never seen. And yes, and so it was cleaned up for a bit. Unfortunately, it fell back into a state of disrepair. So yes, I do find it all fascinating, but I'm also the victim currently as a landlady of people who hoard. So the electrician went in, couldn't do his work, refused to work in that situation. The house was also, I believe, rat infested, probably flea infested too. And he said, I can't work like this. And so he took the photos to prove why he couldn't do his work.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time she complained, but there's no personal identifying in stuff in the photographs. It could be anyone's mess. I just know it's my house.
Yeah.
So and that's probably not that bad. That's just clothes, right? So arguably 10 lots of washing and you're sorted. But the floor,
That's only one room.
Yeah, and all the carpets have to be replaced. The floors of the kitchen have to be fixed. Windows are smashed. Things have been taken.
How old is this person?
Not well. It's not about age. It's about someone who's not well. And it goes back to what you're talking about, Clarky, around the reasons that people, and I wouldn't say this person's a hoarder. I would say things got too much for them.
Yeah.
And it's family of little kids and all sorts. So,
And I think that it starts somewhere, right? So if, if people hadn't intervened, who knows where that could have ended up. But, I guess that's the piece around you would have had to have intervened, and they probably don't like you now because...
Unfortunately, I did have to serve notice, but we didn't even get to serve notice because they did a runner. Because of the gas certificate situation, I wasn't really left with any choice but to say, I'm sorry, if you don't let us do the gas certificate, then I can't continue to have you in the house because it's not safe, not legal. Yeah.
Mm.
So we'll have to serve notice. And I think, from what I understand, the agent was going to go around and do the notice, but they did a runner in the night, and I found out through the whispers of the town. It's a small country town, and so people reached out to me to let me know that this was going on. And of course, everyone knew where it was. Everyone knew the situation because it's a small country town.
Yeah.
So it's a bit awkward, and look, I have a sense of where it all started. It starts with illness. It starts with lots of children. So a couple of small children.
It starts with the Collyer brothers didn't have children.
No, but in this instance, I think that without giving away too much information, that there were lots of children and self-declared illness as well at the time, which is unfortunate, but they're not there now. And I'm just going through the extremely expensive and arduous process of getting it repaired and re-rented. And don't bother with landlord insurance is my advice to anyone out there. What a waste of time that is. Yeah.
At its worst, like you can literally see piles of rubbish and junk in rooms that, I think, Carly, you might have mentioned this, people can be sitting on the top
I've seen it.
And being at roof height kind of thing, which is the image I've got with Langley writing the check.
100%. So there was one, I saw one on TV. I've seen a few actually because like Carla, I'm a little bit, not obsessed, but, like if that's on telly, I'll watch it, right?
Yeah, right.
And
get drawn in.
There was a program in the UK about these, someone in Aggie, I can't remember their names, and they used to go and help out hoarders and filthy houses and stuff and really do them up. But there was one I remember where you couldn't get in the front door. You had to go in a side door around the back, and everyone had to climb up. Like it was like you were mountain climbing in a room till you hit the ceiling, and there was like maybe a foot space for you to get through into the next room. And the son was living with the mother, and the mother was the main hoarder, but the son wasn't like, oh yeah, Mum, we have to throw stuff out, but never did. And he had like a little space, a little room somewhere that he was sort of half hoarding and living in. And the daughter, it was awful actually when I think about it. The daughter wasn't living with them and she was trying to get help, right? So I think she called in the TV show, and the mother, they had like a garage sale of stuff, and the mother stood there, to your point earlier, Carla, going, no, we can't give that away.
Oh,
No, you
most
can't have that.
episodes
And
are like that.
grabbing everything back
Yeah.
that they were trying to give
Yeah,
away. And the
Especially
thing.
broken things and things that are totally destroyed, and they're like, oh no, we might be able to use that.
And
No,
the
you just gotta
son
do
was
that. I wanna
enabling
fix
it
that.
too. And the daughter's like, you are enabling, Mum. We've got to stop this. It's not good. It's not healthy. And they were vile, and they turned on her like she was the problem.
Oh,
And she
yeah.
was heartbroken, this girl. She just wanted to help her mother and her brother. I don't know there was probably a trauma in that story too, somewhere along the line. But yeah, it was how do you live like it? How
Most
do
of
you
the
find anything?
stories,
How do you eat?
I
How
know.
do you even get to the fridge?
It's weird. And there were people that either were, most of them, people had an idea outside that something was going on, but some had kind of normal jobs and whatever else. And it was just a shit fight once you got past the front door. But so many of them had situations where it was a mum or a dad and had
passed away
teenage
or-
teenage or young 20-something children who were the ones who'd sought help on their behalf. And the amount of times the person who was the hoarder could not prioritize their family, their children over hoarding was, I reckon, probably 75, 25. It was
100%,
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Not
Wow.
100%.
And the kids
I
would
agree with you.
The kids would be crying, going, "You've chosen this over me," and they could not go. No, I really need that stuff. You don't understand. You don't understand. Oh, it's such a hard thing to watch, where they're prioritizing, a wet old newspaper that's infested with, I don't know, dog feces, like that, just anything. Unbelievable. And the kids seem pretty normal, going, "Please, Mum, just let these people help you." But I mean, so often, or that was so bad, they'd like send in squads of people with this, 1-800 junk. They would take tons and tons away.
Skips.
Sometimes they could only do 2 rooms. Sometimes they wouldn't be allowed to do more than, the smallest amount. Sometimes they'd have a great success, but you'd be left going, oh, I don't know how they'll go after they leave. It is full on.
Do
Because
they
it
ever
doesn't
go
cure
back
whatever causes it.
Never.
It just clears the shit out. Yeah.
Do they
I've
ever
never
go back
seen-
to it 12 months later and go, here's what the house looks like?
Well, what I would find is I was watching, what's the A&E network? I don't know what that is out of the US, but that was the network that had done this Hoarder show. When it started being fed into my, I guess, Facebook profile or whatever else, if you watch one, then they'll send you another, they'll send you another, you'll send you another. And of course, I'd watch them and I'd be going, oh my gosh, when did this happen? And then there'd be all this stuff underneath where people were commenting going, this was from, 2009 or 2011 or whatever it is. And some people kind of knew something else had happened, but I could never find an alternative outcome. But,
Well, even those current affair things where you've got someone whose backyard is full of trash
Yeah.
and they go to the thing to interview them and they're yelling,
yeah.
Like, get off my land.
telling them,
Yeah, totally.
When I was quite young, in university, a friend of my brother paid me to clean his house. And I was like, yeah, sure. And I went into the house, and it was a hoarder situation, but it wasn't dirty. Like, it wasn't food and trash and stuff. But there were newspapers on every inch of the floor, right? And stuff everywhere. So I picked them all up and put them in rubbish bags, but I didn't throw them out because, I thought, oh, look, I'm not really sure I should throw it out. And we cleaned that house, me and a friend, and I think it took us probably 2 days. And it was clean, and he gave us the money, and I was quite satisfied with the job. And apparently, the minute we left, those bags were opened, and all of that paper, all that newspaper was put back on the floor.
Hoarder.
Or insulation.
Yeah.
I don't understand, and and that's the point. I just
Or he was
don't
planning on
understand.
fouling the floor.
No.
Oh, maybe he thought he was a bird. You know how you used to put newspaper on
totally
the bottom of the
know.
bird cage?
Yeah.
No, I did find a cock ring, but apart from that,
Oh, Jesus.
You did not, did you?
Did you keep that?
Great Bengal.
it was rather amusing because I was with a very innocent high school friend of mine who was like, "What's that?" I'm like, "None of our business."
I don't know that
That's
I would have
good
known what it was.
Mm.
Back, I don't know if I still
I
know
was
what it
I was a deviant when I was that age. Anyway,
You?
yeah.
When
Anyway,
you were a 70-year-old woman.
this was when I was about 20, I think.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Because you remember you were
I had
old.
certain-
You're
Yeah,
like Benjamin
I'm old
Button.
that's right. I'm
Yeah.
aging backwards. That's right.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes, I digress, but I've experienced it a couple of times, and I joke about Tony being a hoarder, but he certainly likes to collect bits and pieces. It's not out of control. I think actually, though, if certain circumstances changed or a major trauma happened, you could see it getting out of control.
Yeah.
Like The amount of clothing is extraordinary. It's got more clothes than me.
I find it really satisfying chucking things out.
Mm.
And when I say chucking things out, I don't mean just filling the rubbish
Randomly.
bin, but,
Yeah.
like going, we'll donate this to the salvos, or,
Yeah.
this can go there, but that we'll throw out. But just cleaning, decluttering is such a nice thing.
How many old newspapers do the salvos want? That's the sort of stuff I can't
you
get my head around.
recycle
How
it.
many Aldi catalogues, for God's sake, does a person need to have?
Oh, yeah, none is the
Yeah,
answer.
you recycle it, I know. But that's the sort of
Yeah.
thing that you just think, why?
There's no
this is-
excuse for that stuff.
Oh, it drives me crazy.
But imagine the
boxes.
burden it would become.
Oh, the boxes, the idea of keeping the empty box for everything that you ever bought. Why? If you're using it, why are you putting it away? Oh, if we move, we're not moving. Put it in the bin. If we move, we'll get moving boxes.
We can always get more. Carla, what's that lady? I'm asking this because you're the pop culture queen.
Yeah.
What's that lady who says if
I
you
know.
don't get joy from it, chuck it out?
Marie Kondo, wasn't it?
Condo, that's it.
Marie
Kondo.
Yeah.
See, I don't buy into that.
Imagine her going into a hoarder's house, because it would be like, the devil drinking holy water or something. She would go in there and go, if this doesn't give you joy, like it brings me horrid visions when I touch this bottle of urine that someone's hoarding.
I think there's an update from
Oh my
her.
God, that was one of my other tenants.
It's a real thing.
They had, I
Bottles?
think it was something like 8 big 2-3 litre bottles of urine in the top bedroom cupboard. It wasn't so much that they were hanging on to it because they were close to it. It's that they couldn't be bothered walking downstairs to the toilet. So he would wee. And then when they moved out, they left all of that and all the rest of their excreta in the house. Urine-soaked mattresses.
Where do you find these people?
Not the first time I've gone through this, which is probably why I'm not
honey.
that rage-filled. I'm just like,
Sell
here we go
up.
again.
Sell up.
Oh, I'd love to. Anyone want
That's-
to buy a house in the southwest of England? Slip
I
into
find
my
that
DMs.
so sad. I find that really sad because you put so much effort with such a beautiful home.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
just disgusting.
'Cause it
But
really
this is the
was
thing with
nice
tenants,
too.
right? I know.
It's not all tenants. I was a brilliant tenant. I looked after the house before I even bought it off
Yeah.
my landlady. It's not
Same.
everyone. It's just some
Of course not.
people don't respect things. Well, look, some people don't respect things even when they own it. I was going to say when it's not theirs, but
true fact.
honestly,
Totally.
some people are just gross. Not living by our standards. Let's put it that way.
So the show that I saw had someone who'd hoarded to the point where they couldn't use the toilet anymore.
Oh God. Okay.
And so
Amateur.
she was weeing in a bottle, like in a soft drink bottle,
Yeah.
Oh,
and putting or an orange juice bottle, or whatever, putting the lid on it and leaving that in the piles.
Yeah.
And then she had to go to the toilet outside, so poo outside.
Yeah.
And so she would do that. And you imagine that building up, day after day after day.
Oh God.
Like, so gross. And I once had a job, and I won't say where it was, but I had to go and visit people. And I went to one person's house, and they'd been so concerned about the wasting water that they
No.
decided that
If it's
they
yellow,
wouldn't.
then it's mellow.
Well,
can't stand it.
yeah, except they were weeing in buckets, like, big,
Oh, no.
big, like 20-litre buckets. And so there were about 3 or 4 of them around the toilet that were mostly full. And I think the theory was that they would tip them all down the toilet at once and then push flush, except they didn't. And I made the mistake of saying, do you mind if I go to the toilet?
Oh.
And was like, oh, what is this? Like, that is not okay.
Look, if you're not keeping your urine to bleach clothing, as they did in the medieval years, then there is no good reason to keep your urine,
Thank you.
Just saying.
Thank you.
This is a stomach turner for all the reasons that
Hoarding is.
That is.
Oh, and you haven't even covered dead cats yet. I do remember seeing an episode of one where there's a woman who was a cat lady as well, and, couldn't really look after the cats either. And cats would get old or tired or sick or something, and they'd go into some part of the house and die. And then they'd get, stuff just put on top of them because she hadn't noticed they were there. What was the name, Carla? You'll remember this.
Yeah.
Aggie and someone. It was an English program.
I was thinking, that's who I thought you were going to say. We say Mary Kondo, exactly.
Is that like pressing flowers?
Kim.
Kim and Aggie, it could have been Kim and Aggie, and they went into houses and they did this job of cleaning them up. And I remember one of them, I'm pretty sure it was with them where they had
It was Kim
a number
and
of
Aggie.
dead cats, and animals that they extracted from
No.
this house cleanup. Yeah, it wasn't. You got the sense that the cat had maybe died of probably neglect, but I don't think they were torturing the animals. The animals would just die, and then you couldn't
they
find
couldn't
them
get
because
to
they
them
were
to throw
in
them
this enormous pile of detritus of their lives. Yeah.
Oh, my Lord.
Kim Woodburn and Aggie Mackenzie. How Clean Is Your House was the show that was big
That's
when we were in the
it.
UK.
Thank you very much. And if you haven't seen that, Clarky, you should.
How can they call it How Clean Is Your House and then go and visit Hoarders? Because that would give people
That's kind of the
anxiety about going, well, maybe I need to vacuum my floor or something.
But
Oh,
I haven't
this
seen
was
my
not
floor
quite
in
as
40
bad.
years.
Yeah.
They came in with massive skips that they filled with everything and just
I
gutted the
think
houses.
I
Yeah.
would like to see a game show. You know how they did that wife swap show?
Yeah.
I'd like to see one where they got a hoarder and someone with OCD for cleaning to swap houses.
I think
Could
they
not
did
hope.
on Wife Swap. I think they had a few
That was the highlight. Yeah, correct.
grotty ladies and then OCD ladies. I'm pretty sure.
I would just love someone who, has to keep everything spotless to go into a hoarding house, and someone who's a hoarder to have to go into a completely spotless house and see how they lived
Yeah, but
or-
they hated it.
or died, as the case may be.
From memory, the people who were the hoarders thought that there was a lack of freedom in being clean.
I wondered if they had agoraphobia or something. But then the poor OCD person, would they try to clean
They only
everything?
like to live in a space of 2 inches,
Yes, exactly that. I can see walls. What is this place? It's freaking me out.
There's too much space around me. Quick, build
yeah.
a column of newspapers and shit.
Oh,
And sometimes literally shit.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
it.
Oh, God.
Yeah, the latest photos, it was funny. Well, I suppose it was funny. Latest photos of my current situation was they had vacated and there had been animals in the house, and I'd only given permission very late towards the end of their tenancy to have a dog. But apparently they had cats. They didn't give a shit. I lived overseas, and my real estate agents clearly were not doing a very good job. But they also had a snake in the house, interestingly. Anyway,
Oh, of course.
it's in an aquarium.
tank,
It wasn't.
Oh, I was going to say that wouldn't be a wild snake like you'd get here. That would have to be a pet snake.
It was a pet snake. It was left behind, and I think it probably froze to death or starved to death. But it was sadly
He
deceased.
didn't make the run for it with them.
No, but how's that? Like, who leaves their pets when you do a runner, and then complains about the mishandling of their beloved 11-year-old snake? Moving on. But there was this thing. There was sort of like Poogate because there were people who got into the house, and they were very concerned about whether there were other animals in the house. Right? I think this girl who does sort of animal conservation and welfare stuff, and she was the one who actually contacted me in the first place to say that this thing had happened, because she had been there to try and rescue the snake. And they get in and she sends me a photo and says, I think there's still an animal in the house, because several hours or a day earlier, a photo was taken in a particular area. And then the next day, another photo was taken and there was a phantom poo had appeared on the mat that wasn't there the day before. So they were convinced there was an animal in there. I had the estate agent and another bloke check it out. They couldn't find it. But if it was a cat or something, it could have left when they came
strayed,
in. Yeah.
whatever.
It could have
And
been.
the front door was open, apparently.
It could have been crocodile poo. Remember the episode we did a
Looked like
while
cat
back
or
where there
dog
were
shit,
crocodiles being found in the UK?
In the UK, yeah.
That
Probably in
actually
my
worked.
basement. Probably in my basement.
Swanee, I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
So with Schmidty talking about her first-hand experience with hoarding, I just
Yes.
want to revisit, is there actually a crime that Schmidty doesn't have personal experience with?
I don't know that there is. This is just another one.
I thought
No, wait a minute.
surely she won't know about this, but no.
But ding
Oh
dong.
my god! No! Not only did she know about it, she's got her own hoarder.
I'm living
On
it.
the-
She's
yeah.
got several experiences of it.
So what would you do if you had a hoarder? How would you sentence them
Oh.
to clean living?
Yeah, well, I think that is the question. How could you?
It's a really tricky one because it's an illness.
Mhm.
It's sort of
So psychopathy, just saying, if I go around murdering people, I have an illness. It doesn't mean that I shouldn't be put away.
yeah.
But I mean, I think a hoarder is already put away by their own hoarderingness. Hoarderage?
Hoardering.
Hoarditude.
But it's so antisocial, isn't it?
But isn't that the point?
What I found was a lot of the people, like in which was quite different to Schmidty's situation, a lot of people were doing it to their own property. That it was beyond, you know what I mean?
That's
and so
normal,
what would quite often
Well,
happen is
that's preferable, in my opinion.
I totally agree. So it should be, if you're prepared to treat something so poorly, it better be yours. But what I found was a lot of them it had got to a point where it was crisis. The local government, the local whatever it was, government body, whatever it was about to come in because it was a risk to people around.
It was a health and safety issue.
Correct. Yeah. So their family would come in and say, we've got to get this sorted because if not, you're going to be evicted. And that they couldn't even make sense of that. Just very rarely, occasionally
But
it
I
worked.
need all this stuff.
Yeah.
But rarely it did. And the ones where that was going to be the situation is when they could strip stuff out and they'd strip, there were holes in the floor. There was so much damage done to the building itself.
Imagine the weight. How many
Rotting,
tons
yeah.
did you say were removed? Like 5 pianos.
120 tons.
5 pianos and 76 trombones, and they were in the basement, so they couldn't fall
Well,
through.
the
But imagine
76
if you had them
trombones
higher.
are a bit iffy.
Imagine if they had found the big parade.
Yeah, imagine that.
No wonder it smelled with all those dead trombonists.
So,
Yeah.
Schmidty, you said it's quite common. I'm
I
wondering...
think it's relatively common. It's
I'm
more
wondering
common than
when
you
a
think.
project home builder like Metricon is going to do a display home for hoarders. Because you know how they're always so pristine and open? I would like to see one that caters to hoarders to just go, this is how you could style your trash pile or your hoarding to make your lounge room look perfect for you.
But see, I don't think a person who's developed hoarding, I don't think they go out and go, I'm going to buy another house and move there and hoard more.
No.
I think it's one of those things where they have become a hoarder in their own environment, and there's a tipping point where it's now too much and I can't get away from it anymore, so I kind of embrace it.
But what if because I said it starts in your teenage to early 20s, if you start hoarding and you're not living in your own home, but you go, this is the life for me and I need to get a house, why shouldn't they be entitled to go and see what a house could look like if they were hoarding?
But surely it's just about square meterage of a room, right?
No.
So when you go, when we were looking for a house, I looked on all of the plans and I was like, how big is the bedroom? How big is that bedroom? Okay, I think a 4 metre by 4 metre bedroom is quite large. I can imagine at least 5 pianos in there, let alone my 76 trombones and, 16 tonne of newspapers.
Well, you couldn't because you're not a hoarder, but
I know.
they always show them in pristine condition. So it's hard to imagine what it's going to look like when you move into it.
But to your point, that's because you're not a hoarder. A hoarder would be able to go,
I
how
can't
much
go and
paper?
see one with messy bench tops, which, we would
Really
generally
disappoints
have.
you, doesn't it?
Well, I just feel like it must be so hard choosing the right home as a hoarder without being able to, you can buy this home exactly as is, or you can make your own modifications. And here's what it would look like as a hoarder.
Maybe it's a business idea. Maybe we need to invent an app. You know how Dulux brought out a thing that you could put a picture of your own home or something, and if you put the colour scheme up, it gives you a sense.
Yes.
Maybe we invent the same thing and we sell it into the Metricons and
yeah,
whoever
yeah.
else
Imagine
is,
that.
Because they do, it's a good point, they do virtual tours.
Virtual tour.
So you
this is the
could have
3D
a
tour
hoarding
as a
option.
hoarder. That's right.
Yeah.
Hang on.
Brilliant.
How many children do you have? How many pets do you have? Are you a hoarder? Yes or no? Yes. Okay. Do you hoard predominantly cardboard? Do you hoard animal feces? What items? Okay. And then you can have different scenes in the rooms depending on what you like to hoard.
Also, you could have like a shopping cart which had all of the things that people might hoard. And so it could say newspaper and, I've got 100 newspapers, so they get scattered all over the floor. Or I've got, in the case of Homer and Langley, I've got 25,000 books. Do you want them neatly on a bookshelf because you're a collector? Or do you want them in one big pile or scattered randomly throughout the house? I mean, I think
Stacked up against the wall so you can read the binding. Yeah.
Stacked up against the window so that your African-American neighbours don't rob you because you're racist and you think that that's what's going to happen.
Schmidty, I think you'll have to edit this out because I think this is a proposition we should go into.
right. Yeah. So, yes.
You don't want to see on your business
I thought you
idea.
were going to have a go at me for being racist. I'm like, that's not fair.
And I thought, hang on a minute, I think he's calling that this is a bit on the nose.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
No.
I was distracted because the woman who's cleaning my house up was confused about what a formal quote is. So I was letting her know. And then suddenly I heard
That
it's
foreign
in
concept.
writing. It's in writing. Then I heard, Schmidty, we've got to edit this out. I'm like, hey, I heard something about African American. I heard something that sounded a little bit racist, but I thought I'll hear that back when I'm editing. And then all of a sudden, no, it's because we've got a brilliant idea.
Yes.
But I know I said this comment. I mean, now I'm going down the business path. We probably need to get some statistics on how many hoarders there are who buy new houses before we go down the development route.
I think you're right. I don't think that hoarding is generally representative of people who move home.
Yeah.
I think you stay in the one place for a long
and fill
time.
it up until you can't get out anymore.
I guess the difference is that if you are forced to move for a reason, those might be the people, and maybe it's more a rental option where you can rent a fully hoarded house rather than a fully furnished
Pre-hoarded.
house. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Let's say you have a house in England that you rent and your Australian landlord is onto you, so you have to leave in the middle of the night. You know, do you want to go to an empty new home, or do you want to go to
It's very cold, isn't it?
a
You wouldn't
pre-hoarded
like that.
house? It's very agrophobic. It's
Yeah,
you
it'll
know,
make you feel just like it's really
it's
homey.
exposed.
Yeah, so if it's pre-hoarded, it's nice and homey. It just
do me a favour,
got
rather
that
than getting this
feeling.
comforts of home.
rather than getting this lady to clean your house, try to rent it out pre-hoarded
As is.
and see
I like
if
that.
anyone goes, yeah, that's the house for me.
I'd love to see how they would the real estate agent would present that.
Yeah,
I've had no
Oh,
overtures. I've
yes.
had no
Yeah.
overtures like
Yeah.
that. No,
Yeah.
I've,
my
I've had
goodness.
once it's fixed. Can I rent it? I've had
Currently missing juice bottles full of urine. However,
juice
I'm
bottles. These things were like massive water bottles.
Yeah.
3 litre
Selfie.
ones.
Yeah.
Oh, anyway, that wasn't this tenant. That was a previous tenant. To be fair, that was Fat Shaz, but that's a whole other story.
Fat Shaz. Oh, I love that.
That was my first bad tenant. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Fat Shaz, you're so naughty.
My middle tenants were okay. Fat Shaz was when I first left, so I left in 2009.
Yeah.
There is nothing okay about calling her Fat Shaz. I just want you to know that. I mean, it's freaking hilarious.
And she's the one with the urine and the urine-soaked
Did she go by that
mattresses.
name, or did that something you gave her?
I think she just called herself Sharon.
Was that on the lease
Do
agreement?
you?
I called her Fat Shaz because I was angry with her for
Fair
ruining
enough.
my house.
I don't blame her.
Mr.
You could call her
Miss,
filthy Fat Shaz and I'd still be
Mrs.
fine.
Fat. Or other. And she went fat. I don't go
Yeah.
as Mrs. Sharon, I go as Fat Shaz.
That's right. She also had animals that shat on almost every surface of the house, and everything had to be replaced.
Oh my
And
God.
the house was flea infested, right?
That poor house is just like
It's gone through
walls,
hell
just
since
filth.
I left, yeah. And then the next tenants moved in, and it took them 6 months to kill all the fleas because they kept, when fleas hibernate, and so when you get vibration, they wake up.
Don't.
So they had to keep
Really?
going and keep going. And I'd had professional people come in and bomb it, right? And it still didn't. And then I went in, and years later they were still there, and I went for an inspection, and he was talking about a broken tile in the bathroom, and I said, oh, if they're still there, I had spare tiles that I put in this little cupboard at the front of the house. I went down, I opened it up, and the tiles were still there, and I pulled it out, and I shit you not, it had cat shit stuck to it.
How is
The tile in the cupboard.
In the
How
cupboard.
is it that you had such lovely neighbours and your house is being treated like that? Like, I thought that was...
It wasn't my neighbour's job to look after the house.
No, what I'm saying is I thought it was quite a nice
It
community.
must have been
where
pretty
you
alarming
were.
for them, poor
How
guys.
does that happen?
It is a nice community, but people do keep to themselves. Like, they mind their own business. And so this time round, the community was actually it was the neighbours. My neighbours then have left, and there's new
Yeah.
people there. But someone across the road, they still know who I am. They know I'm connected to Ken Helen.
Yeah.
So they actually, through the grapevine, reached out. And then this other girl who I don't even know, who was in there to look after the snake,
Skinny Shaz.
reached out. No, that's not her name. No, she's nice. This other girl, not related at all. The snake saver.
The snake charmer.
Snake saver, yeah. She saves animals. She was in there to try and save the snake, and she saw the state of the place and was horrified by it. Put it all over Facebook. We had to have that removed because my ex-tenant was,
What,
carrying
was she going
on.
to sue you?
Well, that it was implied,
Probably.
and I'm like, under what grounds? What grounds? I'm not
didn't
even
post it.
there. I didn't do any of this. That's right. Don't try and threaten me. This was the estate agent. I'm like, don't threaten me. Go and sort the issue out.
Yeah, do your job, Mole.
You've been inspecting it. You've been taking 12.5% off the rent for the last
Disgusting.
5 years, and you've done nothing. And by the way, they said to me to fix it up. They just said, "Oh, could you give us £5,000?" I'm like, I don't have £5,000. No.
I'm happy to take it out of the rental.
But there is nothing.
The rental commission you've taken for the last
taken
few
for 5
years.
Yeah, exactly. It is disgraceful. So obviously they're going to get sacked.
That's the crime. There we go. There's the crime. The real estate agents who allow that to happen on their watch and are still paid for something to do what?
How many letters? And I can go back through. How many letters? Note to the tenant. The house is a bit messy. Needs a clean. A bit messy. A bit messy.
A bit messy.
Jesus.
Feral. It's funny. So someone over there is outraged about the treatment of her dead snake since she did a runner on it and never gave it a chance. I tell you what, in this community, if you get a snake inside your house,
you kill
or
it.
even in the near vicinity, you're getting a shovel, or like someone was saying to me the other day.
This wasn't a venomous snake.
Have you got any netting? Because I need to catch a snake. There's all these things lengths that people go to because of course they're venomous and they could kill you or your pets or whatever, your children. But
this was a harmless snake.
It's just funny the difference.
Yeah.
And of course, snakes are protected over here, so you're not allowed to do anything.
Meanwhile, back in Australia.
Meanwhile, back in Indigo Valley where they're killing snakes willy-nilly.
Back when you actually have to face one and look one in the eye when it's
just
about to scurry under your couch. Oh, sorry, mate.
I know you're protected.
You do you, I'll do me.
Meet the sharp edge of my shovel.
Yeah, correct. You look better in halves.
To a friend yesterday who has just rented a place. Actually, she's going through a divorce, and she was saying
she did that to her husband.
No, nothing. Nowhere related to hoarding, but just that idea of. I think the person I would like to sort of the people who look after the real estate agents. She's in a situation where all the things that were promised to her have not been done. Things like there's her front window doesn't close. Do you know what I mean? Just minor things. And she found out who the owner was. She knows who the owner is. She knows lots of people who knows who the owner. But the owner wasn't aware of any of this stuff, right? It's that usual thing of the real estate agent not communicating that with it. And the moment they said to her, look, if you don't do it, I'll go directly to them because I know I'm not supposed to, but nothing's happening going through you. And I'm telling you, I'm not paying my full rent until these things are done. So you either tell her that or I'll find a way to tell her that.
Yeah.
And it's that idea of, if you weren't paying for the estate agent to be your representative, well, that's a different thing, but you are. That's why they get paid a fee, just to keep things ticking over.
What's annoying about this is the tenant reached out to me a couple of years back and said, I hate the agents. They don't do anything. Can I just rent off you privately? I can't do that. It's not like I'm too far away. I can't nip down the road and fix the house.
No, correct.
And so it's not even about enforcing. It is about the maintenance, right? So having someone who can ring contractors and sort that out for me is really good. But these people have been so useless for the first several years. That those tenants, they were troubled the day they moved in. I'm being a little facetious, but they certainly damaged a lot of things. They had, I had to replace the boiler. I replaced almost everything in it while they were there. They've killed the dishwasher. They killed the cooker. I've got to replace that now. The white goods have to be done. But they cost me a lot of money. They also, I was looking at past correspondence, they didn't pay their rent for nearly a year in COVID. I'm still not convinced that money was recouped, that they actually paid me back all of that. And what's the point of even bothering to try and go for it now? But I kept saying to the agent, I don't think that they're up to date now. At one point they were owing £2,500. they would pay in tiny, like, bits and pieces and whatever, and that was their circumstances. Like, that's fine, right?
$25.38 this month.
It wasn't quite that, but it was a couple of £100 here, a couple of £100 there. They were doing the best that they could. I understand that, but where was the estate agent in managing this?
That's
keeping an eye on it and giving a shit about any of this? It was foreseeable. And they had the cheek to say, oh, well, X wanted to throw him out 2 months ago. And I said, yeah, I know. And I gave her permission. Why didn't she throw him out 2 months ago?
Yeah.
And it's all in writing because I'm in Australia. I don't ring them. So when they did you better take this, because also the person who found all this was slagging off the estate agent. You better take it offline. You or us, we could get sued. I'm like, there are no grounds to sue me. Don't threaten me.
Well done.
Swanee, I think you're right. If you're in a rental situation and there's hoarding going on, then estate agents, I think, definitely have a role to play.
But what about people who just hoard in their own house and booby trap them and kill themselves accidentally with their own booby traps?
I must say, if I was going to sentence someone to some kind of punishment for hoarding, I reckon Homer and Langley got it. Like, imagine booby trapping your own house. It's so disgusting that you
can't find your own booby trap
stuff everywhere, and you get caught out by your own booby trap. It's kind of perfect, because I can't think of a better way to punish someone.
I actually just think it's quite sad. I don't know if they need to be punished.
It's not just sad though; it's disgusting sometimes.
But you talk about communities, and you said you had these nice neighbours, and how did that happen? But what are you supposed to do? Knock on their door and say, "Look, your house is disgusting." When Fat Shaz lived there, people told me afterwards that they would cross the road. The smell was that bad.
Oh,
but at the time, no one told me how disgusting, including my lovely neighbours. They didn't want to burden me with it. I'm like, I could have chucked her out before that.
But my point is, it's around the fact that it's not just sad, right? So I don't want to write hoarding off as just being sad, because it actually has real implications, whether it's for landlords or for neighbours or whatever. I think that, when your hoarding gets to a point where
it's antisocial,
100% offending people around you, it's not sad anymore. There's an element of do it in the privacy of your own home. But if the privacy of your own home is going out into...
You say in the privacy of your own home, but I'm just saying some people have mental health issues that do bleed out to other parts of the community, and do we vilify them, or do we try to help?
Well, I think the hard thing is, how do you help? So, if you've got someone who is... This one that I saw where the woman is shitting in the front yard because her toilet doesn't work, and her family...
It used to, but now there's so much stuff on top of it.
Stuff in
and the family had to fly in for... I think they were in Miami or something. They had to fly...
I don't know, but
they across America.
They got these people involved in the show because it was so disgusting.
Yeah.
And there was a
Lots of
son living with her, or a daughter living with her or something. So, it was that whole...
I feel like this might be the same as the person I was talking about with the son living there, and they couldn't go in the front door. They had to go around the side, and they could only go up the top. They couldn't use the toilet either, or the shower.
Yeah, right. Whoa. Yeah, it could be. But so
she had magazines stacked in the
bathroom was full of stuff
on top of the toilet lid, so she couldn't use it
in the toilet.
What's wrong with that?
I think
go there.
It will sound very sort of judgy of me, but I watched many episodes. Many of them. I had a little bit of obsession going on there at one point. And there are lots of shows that I watch that I have, that I end up having such a huge degree of empathy for someone that I didn't necessarily think that I would necessarily connect with, or, at the outset. I'm thinking, that doesn't make any sense to me. You hear the story, you find out someone's background, you see a journey that they've gone on, and then it changes your opinion. You think, oh gosh, I've really learned something about myself and about other people. More empathy. I don't really remember feeling like that about the Hoarders.
Right.
The Hoarders,
sorry, I thought you were saying you did.
No.
Yeah.
Total opposite.
I thought you were going,
the Hoarders, I've never seen a group of people be more belligerent when it came to being given help, where they just go, no.
They don't want help. They don't think they've got a problem.
And the way they treat their own, sometimes it was their husband or wife, certainly their children.
They
their
don't
kids
want help. They're not asking for it. It's being foisted upon them because everyone else is telling them the way they live is wrong.
Schmidty, neither do serial killers. And
Precisely,
yet here we are.
but they're not actually breaking the law.
Well, they are. They are.
Are
And-
they? If
well,
I
of
fill my
course.
house up with the only thing, there are ordinances about fire risks.
If you
and stuff,
shit
right?
in your
Which
front
is usually,
yard, yes, you are breaking the law.
Yes.
If your house
I'm
becomes
trying to
full
think
of
if I've ever shat in the front yard. I haven't. I've definitely done a wee around the side though.
Swanee, we
We
found it. We found a crime that she hasn't done.
I have
Sure,
weed
I reckon
around
she'll
the
be has.
side. I have done
I
a
reckon
wee
she'll
around
do.
the side when it was absolutely busting and all the toilets were in use.
haven't
But
either.
I've
I
never
just-
shat in
Schmidty, I
any
just want you to
front
know
or
there's,
backyard.
there's
I've
still
thought
time.
about it.
There's
You could
still
get
time.
away with it in our front yard. At the moment, there are so many pine needles in our ground. No one would even know.
Oh God, where we are, you could easily do that.
Yeah, I know. Wouldn't even be able to a thrill.
We're on
Yeah,
18
too much
acres,
space.
though.
Public
Yeah.
defecation is not something that I've done more than a couple of times, and probably when I say a couple of times, when I was bushwalking or something.
Yeah,
in
you
Milton
told
and
us
there's no
about
toilets.
that in an earlier
I don't think I
podcast.
have.
Oh yeah, that's right. That time when I really got caught short. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
quite
Yeah.
recent actually. Yeah.
Caught short.
I did. I got caught short. There was no public toilet, and it was very embarrassing.
Pull over, Tony.
Yeah.
It was in the bush colour. No one saw it. Right? It was miles away from anyone.
Oh look, I've had plenty.
They
I've had
just
plenty of
walked
city
in after
situations
you.
just getting into my front door. Don't worry
It's-
about that.
I mean, if we want it, we're on this whole topic. What about joggers who quite happily squat, stop and
Yeah.
squat? Because
Well,
apparently
you
that was a
know,
thing. Yes.
It's the repeat doing it in the same spot.
Offenders, yeah.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, they were getting booked last year in COVID. There were joggers getting booked because they were just dropping a squat quite happily.
That's fair.
They didn't even bring a doggy
That's
bag to pick it up.
fair. That's fair. I'm
I'm,
okay with
I'm
that.
fine with them being fined.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
one thing to shit it literally. It's
I thought
one thing
you
to
were fine
shit
with
in your
what's
own
doing it.
No,
backyard.
I'm fine with them being fine.
It's
Hey.
quite different to shit
How
on
we
the street
digress.
down in the park. You know?
Dirty joggers.
Anyway.
So I reckon I've got a punishment. So I think people who hoard and own their own home, similar to the Collyer brothers, should have it raised so it gets burnt to the ground. With all don't get the 120 tons of junk out and try to sort through
Seems
it.
a bit pointless if you were going to just burn
Oh,
it
what
down
a
anyway.
waste
Yeah.
of effort. Burn the whole lot down and then they can have a tiny home. So if they're going to hoard, they can only hoard a tiny amount
On the
before
same
their
block of
house
land.
is full. Well, but you could even subdivide the block of land that had a big house into it into like 10 blocks with tiny homes so that 10 hoarders could live in a tiny home that they will fill their
Okay.
house before they're
Yeah,
being
yeah.
so offensive.
Yeah, so they
And
get
put a
to
public
live
toilet
in a
on the
house
block
that's the
as
size of
well.
the kitchen that I'm sat in right now. Okay,
Pretty
cool.
much. Yeah. But then you could have a public toilet as well so that all of the other tiny homes on the block could urinate or defecate somewhere sanitary.
Yeah, and the public toilet probably needs to be cleaned regularly. And
It could have one of those flush buttons. Have you
Just
seen
no hoarding in it.
Have you
'cause
seen
otherwise
the
they'll just fill it with
no?
stuff.
Have you seen the ones that play music? And I swear, the minute someone walks out, they flush the whole thing and just go, "This is gross." And so then when
foul.
you
There's
walk
water
in, they're always
everywhere.
wet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
It's disgusting,
Moist.
but yeah.
Oh.
God, we're on a lot of urine and shit today, aren't we?
What a load of old
Oh,
shit.
So, Swanee, I think you're a bit like me, a bit tired.
You
'cause
could actually title this episode "What a load of old shit."
What a
'cause
load of
that's what it
old
is.
shit. Yeah. I think I will.
Because I think we've been the most offensive to the group of hoarders of any group that we've ever been offensive to, and there've been many.
I would be comfortable having someone come on this episode and talk to us about why we should be more sympathetic towards hoarders because
Just because
I
it's a
don't
mental
feel it.
illness.
I know why I should be because it's a mental health issue, but that's not really the point of this. Is it?
No, it's a disorder. There's
Who am
no
I?
there's no understanding of what causes it. You know, they might
Oh my god! Edit that out. Oh my
Don't
god!
know.
It's funny.
Swanee, they might like to offend their neighbours. You know, we don't know what
I
they
don't
might just be
think they
complete
just don't care.
assholes.
I don't think they care.
They don't care. They do not care.
But that's my
They
point.
don't
So
care.
call it mental health, but you know, it could just be asshole.
They're just selfish.
So
Well, they are. I mean, that's going back to-
me and my shit.
Going back to your
Judgy.
point. Well, I think the other thing, if you really want to punish these people, is you put them in a trial by wine world, in a space where they have no belongings. They have nothing to hoard and they have
A
no access to
Metricon
hoarding.
display home.
Yes, a Metricon display home where you can't pick anything up. It's all just stuck down. So,
Yeah.
there's no way to move anything. Nothing is delivered to the house. You have no access to be able to buy anything.
Yes.
So the opposite of your tiny homes full of hoarders and they're holding shit.
Huge
It's like
expanses.
lovely, beautiful houses that are completely clear and clean. Yeah. All right. And Swanee, any parting thoughts after your last statement of complete abject lack of sympathy? Yeah.
No, I think I've said everything I need to say. I just
You're standing firm.
if I start at a central point and I go down, if I split it going down to two paths and we assume that they've got mental health issues, then we'll just park it there and leave it. But let's park those people. I'm not going to be. And if we go down the other path, then I think get those places cleaned up and they have no access to the things that have just put such a huge wedge between them and the people that are supposed to be the most important to them, whether it be their children, their grandchildren, their partners. Unbelievable how they've just been able to go, sorry, I can't prioritise that relationship when the people are begging them for just a little something.
No,
They're
I
not
have to
asking them to
keep
be
this-
tidy.
Some
It's
people
just
spend a lot of time and effort cleaning their homes. Be better.
not that.
You don't
Not that.
understand how important this broken umbrella is to me.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly.
I'm not an octopus. I don't need 5 pianos. Jesus.
Yeah. All right. Well, excellent work, Clarky. That was a nice move away
Great
from
topic.
murder.
Loved it.
Enjoyed
Wow.
it. We love things that are a bit gross.
And you thought it was going to be a short story.
We
You
love a
Definitely
load
did.
of
were
Oh,
worried about it, and
shit.
you didn't think
What a
we'd
load
carry
of
on
old
about
shit.
it.
Big love to Fat Shaz, wherever you are out there.
Yeah. I'd give you a hug all the way around, but I can't reach.
I never met her. She probably wasn't that fat. I
I
was just
don't know
angry
her.
with her. In terms of my tenants that recently left, I recognise that they've got a lot of issues. They have things to deal with themselves, but you shouldn't leave someone else's property in that kind of a state. Great story, Clarky. Thank you very much. You thought we didn't find the humour in it, but we certainly
we did.
Oh, we certainly did in the end.
Yeah,
yes.
we're good like that. All right. And as we say every week, miss you already.
Challenge.
Bye.
Miss you already.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Trial by Wine. You can contact us at trialbywine@gmail.com. Please rate, review and subscribe to Trial by Wine on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to support us, you can become a patron at www.patreon.com, Trial by Wine, or visit our website www.trialbywine.com to donate to us. Your support will help us cover many more cases and apply wacky sentences. We really appreciate you listening and hope you tell everyone about us. Our cover art is by John Christo and music is by Beauchamp from pixabay.com.